Over the last few weeks, the market has been a bit volatile, to say the least. Some big companies like Facebook and Netflix have lost billions in market cap. While some investors are freaking out over this downturn, there are few smart ones who see this downturn as an opportunity. After all, everyone has heard the famous Buffett saying, "Be greedy when others are fearful." But is it as easy as just buying the dip? Or do you have to do more to come out with a sizable profit from this downturn? Well, let's hear it from Warren Buffett himself on how you can make a profit from a market crash.
You know, they talk about having 8 or 9 recessions since World War II and how we've come out of them faster. This was way, way, way different than any other recession we've had post-World War II. This was a recession where virtually everybody in this room and around the country was actually scared for a while. I mean, people go through recessions and they're unpleasant and all that. But people literally, they took Treasury bill rates down to a negative rate. Now, when you were willing to take less money from a Treasury bill than you would get from putting money under your mattress, you know, that is a different phenomenon in economics from what we've experienced. So you have had the American people be paralyzed by fear and coming out of that paralysis. And the gain has been really, I think, quite satisfactory. You'd love to see it faster. And let me point out one other thing. We talk about 2% a year gains now, and everybody says that's terrible, you know, and it's not our potential and everything. The population is probably going to grow at a little less than 1% a year. So if you have 2% real gains, that means in a generation, in 20 years, you will have greater than a 20% per capita gain in real GDP. Now, real GDP is about $54,000 per person in the United States. If you get a 20% real gain per capita, that's $10,000 per person more per capita income in the United States in one generation. That's fantastic. I mean, it may not be as good as we did in some of the decades after World War II, but if you go back in history, centuries went by without getting anything like that. And 20% gain, how would you like to have that distributed somehow evenly across the population? You'd be rid of all poverty and everything else. So even at our present rates of gain, this country is turning out more and more stuff per capita year by year, and it will continue to do so. We have a marvelous machine, and it has worked extraordinarily since 1776. In my lifetime, I was born in 1930. In my lifetime, the real GDP per capita in the United States has increased 6 for 1 person's lifetime. You know, I mean, nothing like it's ever happened, and it isn't because we're smarter, and it isn't because we work harder. It's because we have a system that unleashes human potential. And, you know, let's just look at the people in this room. I mean, you know, you have more potential than you thought you had 10 years ago or 20 years ago. You certainly have more potential than your parents thought you had. So it just, and you will find 10 years from now, that you had a lot more potential than you thought you had today. I mean, and you're going to get a chance to use it in this country. You know, you're not condemned to a life that, you know, was ordained by what your parents did before you or something of the sort. It's a wonderful, wonderful system, and it's still working, and it will keep working.
You said that stocks were neither greatly expensive or really cheap.
Right.
What would you say now about stocks?
A standard of total market capitalization to GDP, and that I use that because it showed at that time how extreme things had gotten. I think they'd gone from
Extremely high.
Yeah, they'd gotten from 40% of GDP, which had been kind of standard over the years, they'd gotten up to like 170% or something. So it wasn't designed to be a fine-tuning type of valuation, but it showed things that really changed in a big way. A very high percentage of the time, stocks are in what I call a zone of reasonableness. This is not something, you know, we all know that pi is 3.14159, and little kids can sometimes give it out to hundreds of decimal places. But the stock market's not like that. There's a range of reasonableness, and most of the time throughout my lifetime, it's sold in the range of reasonableness. That range changes over time as earnings accumulate, interest rates change, and all that sort of thing. There's only been about 5 times in my life, I think, that I've actually spoken out publicly to say it was outside the range in one direction or another. The most recent one being in October. I was early in October of 2008, and I said stocks were cheap, and I wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. But I'll probably have some chance, once every 5 or 10 years to make a definitive statement. There is a big zone of reasonableness. Anybody thinks they can pinpoint it is crazy. It's not that precise. And fortunately, you don't need to. If you buy good businesses at reasonable prices and hold them, you're going to make a lot of money. And that's true of stocks as a group. It's true of individual companies.
So you're saying that right now they are in a zone of reasonableness?
They are in a zone of reasonableness.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
During the Lehman weekend, I received a call on Saturday night. I was in Edmonton, Alberta, very late at night. And I first arrived there for a social event at 6 o'clock, and I got a call from Bob Diamond of Barclays, who was trying to buy Lehman. And they wanted, the British government had just told Barclays they could not buy Lehman and expose themselves to a loss of greater than £3 billion without getting shareholder approval, and they would need at least a month to get shareholder approval. So Bob Diamond said to me, what would you charge to ensure all the parties doing business with us that their contracts would be fulfilled between when we make the deal and when we have a chance to have a shareholders vote approving it, which would have been at least 30 days, probably 60 days. And I said, well, I've never heard of a contract like this, and how much do you want the indemnity be for? He said, I want it to be unlimited. Well, unlimited was not a great word in the fall of 2008. So I said, I'm going to this party. I'll come back about midnight. Fax me how much you'll pay, how you'll define the terms of the contract, but tell me how much you'll pay, and I will get back to you no matter what hour it is. It was a couple hours later in New York, and I'll let you know whether I'll do it. So I went to the party, and I came back at midnight. There was no fax. I went down to the desk, and I said, where's the fax? And they said, we don't have a fax. And so I stayed up for another hour or two. Finally, I gave up. That was September 2008. In July of 2009, I was going to Sun Valley, and we got off the plane, and I opened this very modern contraption I have in my pocket, and it said message waiting or something like that. And I don't know how to work that part of it. So I gave it to my daughter, who's here, and I said, tell me what this is. Message is on here. And so she pulled it up and handed it to me, and I started listening, and she started talking to me. I said, quiet, I'm trying to listen to this. And it turned out that it was a message from that night in September telling me that they would call me on Sunday and we'd try to work out all this thing. So if you really want to know the story of why Lehman failed.
Thank you for watching video. Please like and subscribe Grow Up YouTube channel and follow us on social media.